Hey parents and kids, my name is Caitlin Ahrens and I'm the Food Education Support Manager here at Pilot Light, and welcome to Family Meal and my kitchen. Today we'll be showing you an activity that you can do at home together. You're probably wondering exactly what is Family Meal. Family Meal is the name of a special time in every restaurant when in the bustle of a busy day, inevitably full of a lot of frustrations or changes. Every restaurant staff member, servers, dishwashers, chefs, managers, all come down and share a meal together. It's almost always served up in bulk, family style. You can pretty much use whatever utensil you want. You can use whatever container you want. Chefs have been known to eat out of quart containers in addition to plates and bowls. And it's free of charge. It's a time to be grateful for what we have, even in the midst of a lot of uncertainty ahead. I also like to think of it as an inventive way to use up the things that you have. I've been a participant of a family meal in which we had squash in 4 different ways because we had a whole extra case of squash in the walk-in cooler. I also have had the pleasure of being introduced to another culture and cuisine by a coworker who shared that with us over a meal. And then I also really love when family meal encompasses what's going on in the farm. So all of the new fresh produce as a way to highlight and get excited about everything that's coming in this upcoming spring. I know that's what I'm personally thinking about a lot right now. At Pilot Light, we believe that food connects us to one another. And we like to gather with you around this virtual table, which you can't see but is underneath my camera and in my kitchen, and share a little bit about the things that keep us moving forward. We're all cooks today and we're here to build and share in this community. So take a seat, pull up a chair, grab a pillow, don your apron, do your thing. Welcome to Family Meal. All right, so let's get cooking. So although a lot of recipes for pasta will use eggs, we're gonna stick with just 3 ingredients today. We're gonna use water. We're gonna use a little bit of salt, which I just measured out already, but this is 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and a cup of water. And then we're gonna use 2 cups of flour. So today, I just happen to have a lot of semolina flour, so I'm gonna do a mix of semolina and all-purpose. So I'm doing a 50-50 blend, but you could use whatever you have. So we'll use that. And if you're using a blend of flour, just make sure that you're combining the flours too before you get too deep in there. Once again, a fork, you could use your hand for this too, but fork is nice, sort of acts like a whisk. And we're just gonna combine these 2 flours until they look like they're nicely mixed. And then once you've got a nice mixed flour, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the salt. It's good to mix the salt in too because you don't wanna just have, the salt needs to be throughout the dough. The salt is really just for flavor, so that our dough has a little bit of extra saltiness. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna form a well in the center of our dough. So we'll take our water now, and the reason you made the well is so that you can put the water in there. So we're gonna put the water in. Don't use quite all of the water, just in case you don't need it. Maybe use about 2/3 of your well. So yeah, I've got about 1/3 of a cup of water left in there. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna start incorporating the flour slowly. I like to go in a clockwise motion, but it doesn't matter too much. So you're gonna pull just a little bit of the flour in and incorporate it into the water and kind of go around your circle. And as you're doing that, what you're gonna notice is the dough is gonna start to sort of gradually come together. And once you've got sort of this paste, we now understand why they called it a paste. Wipe off your fork, and great opportunity for kids to take turns mixing. And I can already tell that I'm gonna need a little bit more water, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more. And then this is when you get your hands dirty. Don't be shy, and you're gonna start mixing it. So just continue mixing, and once you've kind of got it into this amorphous shape, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start kneading it. So I like to knead on the countertop. It's a little bit hard to do it when you're doing it like this because you don't have the full mobility of your muscles. So I'm gonna move my bowl off to the side and start kneading. So kneading, the reason why we knead is to make a more soft and pliable dough. So a lot of times too, depending on how dry or wet your dough is, you may need to add some more flour. So I'm gonna add a little bit of flour on the base there, just so that I don't have to worry about things sticking. Okay, so now we waited patiently 30 minutes. I've got some dough that I made earlier this morning. So just a little bit of this. What you're gonna take now is you're gonna cut this into pieces. So depending on how many people you have helping you in the kitchen, just cut it into a couple of strips. These are gonna be used for your tubes. And then you can put the rest of the dough back and cover that so that you don't form a skin. Then you're gonna roll it in between your palms like this into a tube. We're looking for about a 1/2 inch diameter or so that the orecchiette are nice bite size. Doesn't have to be perfect. The great thing about pasta is that it is delicious regardless of what the shape is. That's why there's so many different shapes. So we're gonna take our knife now and we're going to, I'll put this back under there till I use it later. I'm gonna cut it into about 1/2 inch pieces. Now these are gonna be our individual orecchiette. So the way that we're gonna do this, there's 2 ways. I'll show you the simpler way first. So one way that you can do this is form this into a little ball. Just like this. And then using your thumb, push down on the dough. And it's gonna make a little indent and then invert it. And you've got a little bowl on your finger there and put it at the top of your cutting board. Now the more traditional way that they make it, and if you watch videos of them making this in Italy, you'll see how fast that they do it, is they use their 2 fingers here and they pinch up at the top, and then they're gonna take the knife at a 45-degree angle and they're gonna press and pull towards me down. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna invert the little bowl that we have on our thumb, or our index finger in my case. And you've got it. It's kind of hard to see here, but you've got these sort of little ridges on there, and that's from the knife pulling the dough apart. We're gonna do that again. We'll stretch it and pull. And then invert. You can use your thumb or your index finger, whatever works. And don't worry if they don't all look the same. They're gonna taste delicious, so it doesn't matter one way or another. Okay, so these are some of the ones that I dried this morning. So once you've dried them, you've got a couple different options. One, I can cook these now if I'm hungry, which I am always. So, or 2, if we want to save some for later, which is something my sister and I always do, we'll make a big batch of pasta and then we'll often cook some of it and freeze the rest of it. I'll flour it a little bit. You just wanna make sure any residual moisture, nothing will stick to one another. And just give those a little bit of a toss. And then you can put it in a Ziploc bag. So here I've got my Ziploc bag. I'm gonna put my noodles in there, give them a little shake. And then obviously make sure you press the air out of there too, not only for your freezer, but also in space, but just to make sure that nothing is getting in there. So you wanna make sure that you lay them flat when you go in your freezer. And then another important thing, and this is an opportunity for you guys to come in, kids, make sure that you're naming and dating what it is. So for me, I'm gonna write, maybe this, Caitlin made it. Give yourself credit when it's due. And I made it, today is the 20th. And then you're good to go. So I'm gonna go put this in my freezer and then we're gonna hop on and start cooking some. All right, so now we're gonna cook. Cooking the orecchiette is pretty straightforward. The first thing that you need is a good pot and a towel to make sure that you don't burn yourself. Fill it about 2/3 of the way with water and bring it up to a boil. My pot is already boiling, so now I'm gonna add a bunch of salt. One of my chefs that I used to work with said that you always wanna make it salty like the sea. So that's gonna actually increase the boiling temperature, which is gonna make your pasta cook faster. And it's also gonna add flavor throughout the entirety of the noodle. So the noodle's gonna have flavor inside and outside. So it should come back up to a boil, which mine is. And then I'm gonna take my noodles And I'm gonna sprinkle them. Get really close to the water so that the water doesn't splatter on you. And just drop them in. Okay, so we are boiling. It's been about 3 minutes, so we're gonna start taste testing. So I'm gonna get my slotted spoon out. That way the water can drain out. I'm gonna take it over to the sink and give it a little bit of cold water so that I don't burn myself. And then I'm gonna taste it. Nice and salty throughout. There's a little bit of a bite to it, which if you ever made dried pasta and you've noticed, you can see a little bit of where it's not cooked. That is al dente. That means to the tooth in Italian, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So I'm gonna turn this off. And if I was cooking this right into a sauce, I would actually spoon the pasta and put it directly into my pan behind me. Since today we are just cooking it, I'm gonna spoon it into a little bowl here on the side. And if you were holding this for a later time and you're trying to cool it, you wanna rinse it under some cold water. And that is how we make the orecchiette. Thank you all so much for joining us to make noodles today, something that is both nutritious, filling, and also extremely adaptable. We hope that you enjoy making noodles together and that you tag us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter so that we can see what you're doing at Pilot Light Chefs. We're going to be populating more activities on the Food Education Center, which is at foodedu.pilotlightchefs.org. So we encourage you to check that out for more resources in the coming weeks. And of course, a really, really big thank you to my sister who is currently still staying out of the kitchen so that I can film this. Round of applause! Thank you all. We hope to see you next time on Family Meal. Have a good rest of your day. We want to know how you and your family are enjoying this recipe and making it together. So tag us. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Pilot Light Chefs, #PLFamilyMeal.